time. Wally's
Oh.
going big time.
All right, so we got a little bracket breakdown today. ACL Open number 5. We're heading to Virginia Beach. Probably one of the best matches I ever called. Best matches you guys ever see with Baby Goat and Matt Guy. Who is going to relive that moment, man? Or will it happen? What do you think?
We were kind of talking a little bit before we came on air about it. This Open's so big, they sold it out. It's going to feel more like and so for those folks that are going to be there that aren't, that aren't professionals, not even like they're not PDC either. They're just there to kind of soak in the moment and play and kind of test their skill sets. This is what a national feels like. The names that are there, the numbers of names that are there. This is going to be more what a national feels like than your traditional Open. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. We got a bunch of heavy hitters teaming up for this one, not to mention just the singles action that we're going to see. I think it's going to be remarkable. But speaking of heavy hitters, man.
Yes, sir.
How was your Thanksgiving? Because I feel a little heavier myself.
Yeah. I love Thanksgiving. It's actually one of my favorite holidays. We're finally getting back in our place. So we actually had to spend it, just me and Julie, in an Airbnb because we were not able to be here. We couldn't really visit family because of a pet situation. So we just kind of hung out in an Airbnb and had our Thanksgiving. So
Yeah, mine was a little bit smaller too. Like I kind of liked it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were you?
There's less you have to do and less you can, like more you can do.
Exactly.
We actually got done, and I took a nap. Of course, the turkey belly did me in, so I took a little nap. But I went back to my mom's house. I picked up my daughter, got to hang out with them for a little bit, and then
nice.
My brother and his family came over. My sister's family was sick, so it was kind of fun, man. We stared at the clock being wrong on the TV, on the microwave. For the whole day. With the daylight savings time, did my mom in again? I'm like, come on, just change it.
Just change it.
Yeah, but no, it was fun, man. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. A small meal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a little top 5 list.
Let's do this. I want to hear this.
Okay.
I want to jump in on this.
All right, so let's hear top 5 Thanksgiving dishes. It doesn't have to be in order, but I kind of put mine in order. I went with obviously the number 1 being the Thanksgiving turkey with all the fixins, the stuffing. You got to have all the good stuff on it. I'm a big mashed potato and gravy fan. Just love it. I go dark gravy. I don't know, are you light or dark gravy guy?
I'm a dark gravy for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So mashed potatoes and gravy. I mean, this is what everybody tuned in for anyway, right? We just want to know what.
Who cares?
Who cares?
We're giving you a top 5 list right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on this too because there's a lot of people that say Wally and Bernie's chemistry is unmatched. It's the best in the business.
Well,
people love to hear us talk together. The only problem is we rarely stay on topic.
It is tough.
Yeah, we can't even get through a top 5 list. So number 3 for me is the debatable one. I would go with ham.
I'm all in on ham.
Yeah, I have to have the 2 meats. The turkey, a little dry. The ham, oh man, it's like a syrup, like a Pepsi, brown sugar. Dude, it's so good, so good. And then here's one that most people don't like: the deviled eggs.
Are you kidding me? That's number 1 on my list.
Number 1, okay.
Deviled eggs is number 1 on my list.
See, a lot of people want to go casserole there, and you got to have. And then there's just too many debates about what kind of casserole you got.
What kind of casserole, right? I mean, look, I lived in Charleston for 10 years, and people had these oyster casseroles, which were fine.
I never had that.
If you're really into seafood, that's a great thing to have for Thanksgiving. But give me deviled eggs all day, man. I can eat a million deviled eggs.
Yeah, and the house smells amazing afterwards. It's just great.
Absolutely.
And then my number 5, I'm going pumpkin pie. You got it. I mean, there's a lot of different pies you can go with. I think pumpkin pie gets the spotlight, and for me, with the Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. Cool Whip. I mean, look, I'm all with you. I'm not a big. I'm going to have deviled eggs 1. I'm going to go ham 2, turkey just because it's Thanksgiving. I'm going to go mac and cheese.
Okay.
I'm going to go
mac and cheese, not like
homemade, good, solid mac and cheese, right? Deviled eggs 1, 2. So I've got 4 there. I'm a green bean casserole guy.
Green bean. Now, do you put like the cornflakes and?
Yeah, the onion.
So,
what it is?
Onion.
The little onion. Yeah, yep.
I just eat it. I never make it.
And see, I'm not a big sweets person unless you're going to go cakes, which really isn't Thanksgiving. I'll eat red velvet cake all day long. I'm not. Really? I'm not much of a pumpkin pie guy. I can't do it.
I do like 1 or 2 pieces of pumpkin pie a year, and that's it. But
it's Thanksgiving. That's what it's for.
Thanksgiving, and it's kind of what I look forward to. Like eggnog, I'll drink eggnog probably
Ooh.
1 or 2 glasses during Christmas time, and that's
you ever had too much eggnog with bourbon, and it's a complete disaster.
It's a lot better going in.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and take our first commercial, man. When we come back, we're going to dive into. Let's start with doubles. Let's see what doubles action we got. Sound good to you?
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, be right back. Welcome back, ACL Nation. We're going to get ready to dive into doubles. Bernie, I got to say, man, that was the longest 2 minutes ever.
That is a long 2 minutes, is it not?
Yeah, whenever I'm commentating the opens and I'm just in there, I'm like, okay, 2 minutes to run to the bathroom.
You got stuff going on. People are talking to you.
Yeah. Like, hey, who are we getting next? I don't know. I really got to focus on this one real quick, and then we'll get to the next match next. But then, like when you're actually watching the 2 minute commercial, now I understand why the chat is just nonstop complaining about how long 2 minutes actually is.
2 minutes is a long time. Who knew?
All right, let's get into it though. Here we go. My doubles pick, and this is in the exact order that they're going to finish.
Wow. so you know how this goes, right?
Yeah, no, I have no idea. No. All right. But starting at the top, I'm going to go with Justin Stranger and Jeff Reynolds. Justin hopping back over to the Reynolds squad. Wow. Last time I saw Jeff Reynolds in person was at Worlds, and he was on one, man. He was throwing very, very well. I think he defeated Ryan Windsor and some other top-tier players, finishing in the top 5 of his bracket, if not overall. I can't remember how far he actually got in that, but definitely looking forward to seeing what version of Jeff Reynolds we get. And then Justin Stranger, I would normally think of him as a fastback thrower, so I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to be throwing.
That's it's funny. I talk with Justin's dad a lot at tournaments, and I'm like, if you could just tell Justin that every tournament is a blind draw.
Yeah,
I mean, he's making broadcasts every week, right? It's just, I think he's gone through a couple of partners now, and I think he's looking for the right chemistry. So it's an interesting pairing. I agree.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing them working together. The second one on my list, I mean, two studs teaming up together. At first, I saw this together, Mark Richards and Trey Birchfield. I'm like, that's such a weird pairing. But then you look at it, and you're like, no, it's really not. They throw the same exact bag. They both are sponsored by the same exact brand, and they're both elite throwers. So if I had to immediately pick a team without seeing what the brackets look like, I'm probably leaning towards Mark Richards and Trey Birchfield.
I was going to say, would you seriously go out on a limb here, because I know sometimes we choose these top 5 lists, and we're not necessarily saying this is the order we think they're going to finish. These are 5 teams we're watching or 5 people we're watching. But I think you have to legitimately say if they're not at least in a bracket final, they're not going to feel too good about their weekend.
Well, they got to get out of rounders first, Bernie.
I hear you. I hear you.
Can you imagine the uproar if they don't even
Tier 2, best team in Tier 2.
Tier 2 champs. Now, speaking of champs, last year James Baldwin, Cheyenne Renner took it down. This time we're mixing it up a little bit. We're bringing in Cheyenne Bubenheim. Going to see what she can do with a new last name and same partner, James Baldwin. Talked to him a little bit during one of the live feeds in the chat, and he said, "That's all I got left to defend, man. That's the last little championship I get to hang on to." So we'll see if they can repeat Virginia Beach.
I like this pick. I mean, foreshadowing into my singles, you may see one of these players later on one of my lists. But I think last year, there was a lot of talk about them as a pairing. There was a lot of expectation kind of thrown upon them by people like myself and others that really kind of put a very high level of expectation on them as a team. I don't know if they're necessarily getting that this year. And so maybe that makes it easier, right? Maybe it'll be fun to kind of fly under the radar a little bit.
I mean, that's one thing I did see a lot near the end of the season was just a lot of smiles out of those two. James obviously wanted to have better finishes in singles, but I think that they're one of the funnest teams to watch when you're actually at a tournament. They're always mingling and having fun, smiling with people. So looking forward to seeing them. Next up, we got a little mixture of smiles and not so much smiles with Jordan Power and Devin Harbaugh. Devin Harbaugh, one of the nicest people to talk to, obviously coming off that 5-pointed starfish shot from Upland, California. Just ridiculous. If you guys haven't seen yet, it was an airmail and one where he drug his bag that was underneath for 5 points to win the game. Something tells me you'll see that for shot of the year.
And what is that called? What is the name of that shot?
Chat called it the starfish, and since it was for 5 points, I like it. I'm gonna go with it.
The starfish.
Yeah, we'll see how long it sticks, though.
What's the chat? What's the chat telling us?
Yeah, is anyone on the chat? Was starfish during the Open. Afterwards, I hear a lot of people trying to call it the Harbaugh. The only problem with that is there's a drink here in Kansas City named after the Harbaugh, and we call that the Harbaugh. So I know I for sure cannot hit that shot drinking the Harbaughs.
So what do you think about this pairing? I mean, I think it's interesting.
It's very interesting. I'm curious to see what kind of bags they're throwing. Jordan Power is throwing a little bit slower bag this year, but I think if he speeds it back up again with Devin, that might help Jordan kind of find something to get himself going. I know there was some chatter about Jordan Power and Jay Rubin being a top 10 team this year. I feel like this is the fuel and the spark that he needs to get going on the season. So strong pairing here with Devin.
Your picks 2, 3, and 4 and I'm being serious when I ask this question, would those 3 teams feel bad if they're not in bracket finals?
I would say yes. The only one that I would leave out of there would probably be Jordan Power and Devin Harbaugh because of the bag selection, depending on what they're going to throw. But then again, like I said, this is Cheyenne Bubenheim's debut, as far as I know.
That's true. I mean, we'll talk about her later.
Yeah, sometimes whenever people get into a fresh relationship, they kind of fall off a little bit. I mean, fresh marriages, that's either better or worse. That's what they say, right? For better, for worse.
Yeah.
All right,
you've never had the pleasure, have you, of being married?
I did. It lasted 5 months. It was wonderful. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, mine wasn't awful. It didn't last because of me.
Yeah, I actually finished paying off my divorce before I paid off my wedding.
Nice.
Final team on my list. We're going to segue right back in there before you start getting me to cry. Now we got Alex Rawls and Chris Fagan. So Alex letting Trey throw with Mark, and we're going to bring in Chris Fagan. Not sure if you heard of Chris, but Chris was a player that I met in Colorado. Had the pleasure of teaming up in a blind draw thrown against him. I believe I had Dylan Turpin, not 100% sure. And Chris Fagan decided to throw a perfect game against me. And
how'd that feel?
I threw very well. It lasted like 6 or 7 rounds, so it was punishing. And he had roll shots, airmail drags, strong pushes. Like after every time I threw 4 bags, every round, I'm looking at him. I'm like, well deserved. Well done.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy, by the way, now it seems like every season we go now, the new blood, quote unquote, if you will, even though most of these people have been playing for quite some time. But a lot of this newer blood, they have all the shots now. You don't see as many folks kind of coming on the scene that are just, throwing it in the hole every time, getting airmail here and there. But, they're trying to run bags. Those days seem to, the number of players relying on that seems to become fewer and fewer and fewer every season.
Yeah, Alex Rawls, a deep run in the singles division last year. I believe it was him, Mark Richards, and who was the other one that was tied for first going into it? Was it Jamie Graham?
Yes.
Yeah, so looking forward to seeing how Alex Rawls does this year. This is the first time I'll get to see him. I'm not sure if he's played any other Opens yet or not, or any other major tournaments, but interesting to see how these two pair up against each other, both from the Florida area, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, Alex Rawls, as well as he played last year, top 4 finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, because it felt like at one point he was going to be the number 1 player in the world, then Mark Richards just exploded, and then you still had Jamie Graham being Jamie Graham. You still had other players there. I felt like Alex Rawls, as well as he played last year, still had something to prove.
I think there were 4 of them for me last year. First was Matt Guy, starting the very beginning of the season with Matt Guy, throwing over an 11 and just being untouched, putting in, I think, 80% of the bags and something like that. Just ridiculous stats across the board. And then it transitioned for me over to Jamie Graham. And I was like, all right, Matt Guy and Jamie Graham are just going to be unstoppable. Jamie Graham is the best of the best right now. Nobody can beat him. And then enter Alex Rawls. And you're like, well, Alex Rawls, the kid found it, man. This is exactly why he's Trey Birchfield's partner now. No one's going to beat Alex Rawls. And then Mark Richards just emerges at the right time. It's almost like playoff baseball. I mean, St. Louis Cardinals fan here, and it doesn't matter what our record is. We get 82 wins. You go on that streak at the end of the season. You finish hot. You take down the championship, baby. So Mark Richards got hot at the right time. From what I've seen so far out of all these players on broadcast courts, I would have to say the strength leads to Devin Harbaugh.
Right.
And doubles the reaction that he had with Vincent Frisch and the chemistry that he built in such a short period of time. I'm pretty sure him and Jordan Power should be able to work well together and make a deep run, if not take down the whole thing. But
that's really interesting you say that, because I feel like Devin has become that guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who he's playing with. Yeah, whatever. He's just really become that guy that you can just ride him to the final match, right? Like, regardless of who you are.
Well, I'm hoping that's true, because he agreed to partner with me one time next season. So,
well, there you go.
Find the right tournament and see what type of chemistry you can build. But definitely has those bags working well for him. I'm interested to see what they throw and how well they do. But commercial break time. When we come back, Bernie, let's get into your doubles, brother.
I'm looking forward to it.
welcome back, ACL Nation. Let's go ahead and get rid of that.
Yeah, get that bracket. Get it out.
We want to see these pretty faces.
I don't know about that.
So, chat, we got Jimmy trying to call it an airmail drag and one or something. It's just too much, man. We're going to keep with starfish.
By the way, can I digress a little bit here?
Let's go.
Back to your original top 5 Thanksgiving meals. And when I said, how much I'm into deviled eggs.
Yes, sir.
Don't give me your relish. Don't give me your olives. Keep that stuff out of my deviled eggs. Is what I'm saying. I can handle a little bit of relish in there, but I've seen all kinds of stuff that people throw in there. Like keep that out of my deviled eggs. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, you gotta. I think you just keep it original. Keep it OG. Keep it simple. Keep it the way Grandma made it. We're not trying to get too fancy and go.
Absolutely.
Martha Stewart on this.
Absolutely.
Deviled eggs. It looks and tastes the way it is. It's deviled eggs.
I love deviled eggs, man. I really do.
Yeah, my mom was like, "Do you want to take some with you?" I'm like, "It's a 4-hour drive."
keep them in the back in the sun, in the rear windshield.
I was like, I'm not gonna sit there and munch them on the way. That's not exactly travel food.
I have done it.
When I get back,
I've done it.
Find them 2 weeks later.
I have literally had tin foil and just opened them up, and they just be deviled eggs, and it's all over the place, and you get that crap all over you. But I've done it.
Right. Yeah. So honorable mentions on my list. I forgot to say. I was gonna put T-Nuts and Dana on there, but then I realized it's the order that they actually finish. Top 5 finishers.
Well, see, that's not true, Wally. I'm glad you're on here. That's not true. It's top 5 to watch. Now, you can say, hey, this is the order I think they finish, because it's funny. That's what everyone thinks we say. We don't. We always say it's top 5 we're watching. So,
well, then I could have put them on there.
You should have put them on there.
I had to mention
shout out
50 times because the Packers let me down against the Eagles, man. So they almost came back.
By the way, before we jump into my top 5, I started 0-3 in my fantasy league here with the ACL. Dead last. I will be close to 3rd place now after this week, making an extraordinary run late in the season.
Nice. Who's your rising star?
My running backs, oddly enough, have helped a lot, and they've been off and on. They haven't done it every week, but Joe Mixon, one of my guys, and then my brain's not working. The kid out of with the Raiders just had a big weekend again. Is it Jacobs?
Yeah, Jacobs did.
I've got McCaffrey's my other running back, so I put some of those guys as flex as well. And I've had some big weekends out of my running back, so
I was
feel
so
pretty
happy
good
going into the season. I had McCaffrey and Chubb, which I'm like, how did I get both these guys on the same team? And then my other league, I have Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, and Dameon Pierce. And Pierce has been a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I just cannot get above 500.
Yeah,
my quarterbacks are just terrible.
Yeah,
and I always run into Justin Jefferson every week. It's like they just trade him. They just trade him to whoever's playing against Wally. They just put him on that team. I've lost him, I think, 8 times this year.
They hate you, Wally.
All right. Well, let's get people hating you. Let's bring it in. Here we go.
All right, here we go. Number 1. I actually really like seeing this team together. Frank Modlin, Jordan Kamba used to be a team together.
I know that, but
I'm looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing Jordan Kamba back on the scene now, and then back kind of in his home area, obviously, in the Virginia Beach area, that Tidewater region of Virginia. Frank being from North Carolina, but he's northeastern North Carolina, which is really close as well. So you'll see here outside of one team, a lot of them are kind of Carolina's region, kind of more closer to home, because I felt at least last year going through opens, well, not necessarily the opens, but the shootout series and a lot of the nationals, that the people playing closer to home tended to do better. And I'm sure it's just the travel's not as tough. All your friends are there. It's a lot easier to handle all the stuff outside of the game. So I'm using these guys, former team, guys that are close to the region. And I think what better place for Jordan Kamba to kind of show out now that he's back on the scene than in his kind of home region there.
Yeah, Jordan Campbell is one of my players to watch this year. I definitely want to see which version of him that we're getting, and not because the skill level is not there, but the competition level is what I want to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Playing in the advanced division just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Right.
you get these extra shootouts, the national stuff like that. It kind of takes you up a notch, which kind of brings me to my point about Frank Modlin that I like a lot this year. Is he gets to play in the seniors division now.
Wow,
So
right?
a lot of people are kind of just throwing away random airmails or who knows what's going to happen in the you know, blind draw later on that night. He's already thrown in the seniors division and then the blind draw, and then when it comes to doubles and singles, he's ready to go, man. He's
Yeah.
got 3 days of competitive throwing.
I've made mistake after mistake after mistake about Frank Modlin.
Hmm.
I feel like every 6 months, well, maybe the game's kind of moved on in a different direction. He doesn't throw a hard bag, and he doesn't have a lot of the shots that are out there. So maybe the game's passing him, but no, he always finds a way. Find a way, Frank. So I was happy to have him, and literally, I would put him on these lists all the time. It just would get old.
Yeah, I mean, your list would
Right?
basically consist of,
Yeah.
Frank Motlin, Cheyenne Rubenheim, and
Yeah.
probably the Gore Boys every now
Swear
and
to
then.
God, Noah. I would have Noah
Yep.
on there, Frank, Cheyenne, and who's one more that I always seem to pick? My brain's not
If you
working.
don't pick
Yeah,
Cheyenne, you usually go Cameron Belvin. So
damn right. All right, number 2, I did have the Gore Boys. I'm looking for an unbelievably good year from these guys, and I'm going to tell you why. I mean, last year, coming out of the developmental, just because of their age and some other problems that we had getting, that many pros under a certain age in, they answered that call. They could have sulked about it. I'm sure they weren't happy about it, right? I'm sure it really bothered them that they had to go through the process that they went through. But they handled it well. They handled it like adults, quite honestly. But here
yeah,
it is
Jackson
now.
showed a lot of composure in that matchup against Alex Rawls.
Yes. Yeah, look, these are unbelievably talented kids, right? Everyone knows it now. And for a long time in our region, the Carolinas, and here in the Southeast, a lot of people knew who they were. I think now nationally people know because they saw them come out of the PVC bracket every time and take people down in main brackets and nationals. And I think people are now know who these kids are. And how do you transition from being the player or players that are chasing after people to being the people that are now being chased? The target's now on your back. And I want to see how they handle that.
Yeah, whenever I first heard of the Gore Boys, I was late to the scene. I didn't know about them at all until I think Virginia Beach last year. And I said, these guys kind of remind me of Baby Goat, only a little bit louder.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Pretty much. But then they had that match, and somebody else on your list there, I believe it was Jackson Gore and Jacob Gore taking on Berkeley Parrott and Trevor Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got real loud on that court. So I'm interested to see if they pair together again. Looking back on it, I think everybody agreed that there was no ill intent there that was involved. But whenever Jack and Jake Gore get into a match,
Yes.
I think you guys said this last year, they kind of like the chirping back and forth, but as they mature, I'm going to see if it starts focusing more on the game.
Yeah. If there's one issue that I have with some of the chirping, and I really don't, I actually love it. It's just, they kind of get away with it, a lot of it, and they kind of get a pass because they're so young. In a few years, as they get older and mature and become kind of, quasi grown-ups, right now people are willing to look the other way because, they're kids. What will happen as they get older with that? And will they continue, or, will they mature faster than most and end up being like these grizzled veterans by the time they're 17, 18 years old? Who knows? But
I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm not sure I can picture them being mentors just yet. I like picturing them as teenage cornhole players. So
yeah, right.
Stay there.
All right. We'll go the other side. We'll talk grizzled veterans here. Michael Dingus, Michael Lucas Jr. For me, these two guys last year, especially the first half of the season, were my happiest surprise. It was so nice to see guys kind of reinvigorate themselves, change their games a little bit, step up, add new shots, really kind of adjust to the styles that they were having to play. And that, quite frankly, were kind of beating them the year before. They really showed an unbelievable jump. I mean, at one point, they were a top 10 doubles team the first half of the year. I mean, they fell off a little bit at the end, obviously. I mean, it's hard out there, Wally. It's hard. Yeah. But, yeah, go ahead.
I think everyone's always kind of had them on their radar. Like you see them in the bracket, and you're like, okay, who can I lose to? Who can I lose to? I think I got a good. There's Michael, and that's not an easy route anymore. And I think that they gain the respect of the players, but most importantly, in my opinion, the ACL ups. You know what I mean? The higher ups. now that we're
Yes.
starting to give them attention, they're handling it very well, and they're backing it up and making us look like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's not easy considering the talent level that's out there to change your game and to take giant leaps forward, not just 5-6 spots, right? They were making a giant leap forward back into quote unquote elite doubles team status, right? That's not easy to do.
No.
And, I was really proud to see that happen. Now, they did start to fall off in the second half of the season. So the reason I have them on my list, and obviously there's been other opens, but considering the depth of this open and the amount of talent that is there, I want to see how they stack up with some other teams.
Yeah, I do like to see the teams actually pairing up early during these opens and getting ready to go into shootout season together. So I'm hoping to see big things from them this year.
So you watched Trey and I talk about this stuff last year, didn't you? Because I always wondered.
Pay attention to you guys at all.
I know. I always wonder why more teams don't play together and use these opens as teams. And I know there's travel costs involved sometimes, and there's only so many days you can get off work, yada yada yada, whatever the reason might be that makes it difficult to play that many times a year with someone when you have to travel. But it just seems to me that you would want to build that chemistry, and the more matches, the more bags you throw together, the better that chemistry is going to be. So I'm curious as to why more teams don't do it, but I digress.
Yeah, I'm interested in your next one, man.
Yes, sir.
I was going to put them on there, and then I saw your list first, and I was like, well, no point in double dipping.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sticking kind of closer to home. It's obviously, the Virginia Beach area is technically more mid-Atlantic, but for the folks that are in the Carolinas, it's really not that far. To me, it almost seems like a home court because they're so used to playing in that area. So Kaylee Hunter, Tyler Porthras, obviously a new Tyler's back. That long hiatus he had away from the game, about a year.
Yeah,
he's back, and we've talked. Look, when we talked about new teams coming into this season in some other shows, this was one of the teams I wanted to keep my eye on. I'm still of the belief that Kaylee Hunter has a skill set that could, if she's able to, kind of stick to it and get out of her own way. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but she can be her own worst enemy at times. If she can find a way to get past that, her skill level and just her skill sets as a player could really take her to some pretty big heights. And Tyler Porthras has been there. He's played in massive matches on broadcast courts. And so I'm interested to see how they play together. And with Kaylee having someone like Tyler on the other end, if she does have, maybe a hiccup here or there, she's got someone that's going to back her up and maybe get those points back for her. Yeah. So I find that I'm really curious to see how this team kind of gets their season rolling.
Yeah, I like seeing the co-ed teams build chemistry in the doubles division as well. A lot of the girls that are throwing nowadays don't get the fair shot at having that elite partner on the other end. Yeah. And, Tyler is kind of a question mark for me still. I mean, I wasn't there a few years ago when he was at his prime.
Right.
I saw a few flaws at Worlds. And then I remember him playing against one of my guys, one of my sponsored players. I can't remember which one it was. And I was like, okay, Tyler, he's beatable. All you got to do. And no, Tyler did not let off the gas at all that entire match. And I was like, okay, here we go. I was like, yeah, it sucked for my guy, but I'm interested in seeing this version of Tyler Porthras. I'm ready. I'm ready for this, Tyler. So
yeah. And look, it's got to be tough for him, right? Because he knows, that the people that have been around the game a while, their eyes are on him. Mm-hmm. And that's for some teams.
The game changes so quickly in 2 years. He's got to earn the respect again from the majority now.
So true.
OGs, but he's got to earn the respect of the youngers.
That's so true. That's such a great point, actually. And that's that's got to be a tough thing, right? Because he's probably coming back into a tournament now where, 3 years ago when he was in his prime, he knows everybody out there, right? He's been around a lot of these people for years and years and years. Now he steps onto a court and he may only know, 50% of the people in the room. Right. And that's different. I mean, that changes, the way that you kind of look at things. But we'll see. And that's why I've got him on my list. I really want to see how. And this, I've already said it once. I'll keep saying it. This field is very deep at this Open. This is going to feel more like a national. So I think we're going to get a better representation of who this team is before the national season begins. So that's why I have them on my list.
Yeah, Virginia Beach always brings out some of, and like for me, it's like football doesn't really start until after Thanksgiving.
Right.
Cornhole for me doesn't start until Virginia Beach.
There you go. No, but that's a good point. I mean, I'm with you because we after this, you start getting into late December into January, things change. Things, the people get amped up. Speaking of amped up, segue.
Nice.
Berkeley pair, you like that? Berkeley pair Trevor Brooks. I could watch these guys play. Look, I'm never going to be like Trey and Anthony and give you all kinds of statistics and get very analytical. That's just not really who I am. I think everyone knows that. I'm going to even be less analytical about these two. I just want to sit there and watch them play.
Yeah, they're entertainers for me. I love it. And then they're entertainers that can throw. The Spencer McKenzie show that these two put on, I loved it. I very rarely let the clip play, scroll through Facebook, and then see it again and watch it again.
Yeah,
I watched that one again.
Sure.
It's like they're complimenting each other, but then doubting themselves at the same time, and then execution happens. It's just magic.
I think when they play together, and especially when they get hot, I think there's something that a lot of cornhole players could learn from them. And I'm not talking about shots or shot making or how to hold a bag or anything of that nature. They can command a moment and they can command a room with who they are and how they play and what's coming out of their mouths and how they interact with each other. I think a lot of players could learn something from them. Now, you may not like the language. You may not like how things might cross the line a little bit. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not a PC kind of guy anymore.
I think a lot of people could learn that when these two guys are playing, especially when they're playing well, they command that room. And that's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, I think that one thing people mistake whenever people like Berkeley Pair or Jordan Power or any of these other vocal players, even the Gores, whenever they're yelling at their partner, they're not being disrespectful. They're trying to psych their partner up, and that's how they do it sometimes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and be honest with you, it's blunt. It's like, hey, get your head out of your ass. Let's go.
Right. Yeah.
And then what's the partner going to be like? Well, it was already out of there, buddy. But they're going to be like, fine, I'll do my end, you do your end. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
They work off each other.
I think the game needs more of it, quite frankly.
Yeah, I hope that we get to see a lot more of it in Virginia Beach. I mean, that was a beginning of my season, like I said, last year, and I'm expecting big things with the stack field. So good top five. Let's take another break. We'll come back and do your singles, Bernie.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, ACL Nation. K9 and Bernie here.
Yes, sir.
This is ACL Open number 5 bracket breakdown. Bernie, reading through the chat, I think we missed some teams. Do you guys get that ever?
Yeah. We get a few people upset. And once again, for the 9 millionth time, these are just teams we're interested in seeing.
Yeah, I'm only going to watch 5 teams the entire week, and the rest of you guys
Right.
are obsolete. I don't care about none of it. Joe Harsh in the
Who?
chat just telling us, I'm playing in this one, right? Joe Harsh is on the radar. I'm telling you, man, Joe Harsh going after that tier 3 title. Really looking forward to seeing what he can
Wow.
do.
Tier 3 call to Joe Harsh. Man, that's tough.
I love you, Joe. All right. Speaking of tough, Bernie, man, you got
Yes,
some good
sir.
ones. Let's see what you got on your singles list, brother.
Right on. Well, we mentioned her before in doubles. Now I'm going to talk about her, Cheyenne
What?
Bubenheim.
On your
Yes,
list?
on my list. And she's on my list for not so much her, but I think, especially on the female side of the game, I think there's some players that are really going to challenge her this year. And I think she's had a couple of years where that best female player moniker has kind of been hers, and it really hasn't been close.
I think it's a lot closer this year.
It's a lot closer. Sam Finley, I think, is going to give her a run. I like Trey Ryder had a great tweet today talking about that. I think Cameron Belvin can find ways to do some damage. There's actually quite a few, and I can't go through them all because we don't have the time for it. I'm interested. Look, getting married, and yes, you may have been with this person for years anyway. It does change when you get married. It just does. I don't know why it does.
Yep.
It just does.
For better, for worse.
How does it affect her? Does it have zero effect? Awesome, right? But I mean, you can't.
Boring storyline, wouldn't it?
I know, but you can't tell me she spent the same amount of time on her game that she has in the past years.
I don't know. Watching Brandon's TikToks and stuff, I feel like they might be throwing more.
Maybe
because Brandon might be trying to get to that elite level.
I mean, I know he is. I mean, I know he. I mean, he's a heck of a player in his own right. I'm curious. I'm not saying it can't happen. I mean, I've been a fan of Cheyenne's, on the fan club for a couple of years now. I want to see her elevate into the top 5 overall, not just women. Overall, I want to see her elevate to that level.
I could do it.
And so I'm curious. I'm just curious because, once again, it's going to be a very deep field. Hasn't had as much time to throw, even though I'm sure they've been throwing more than I have any idea of.
That's what Brandon just said in the chat right now. Practice more than ever. She's ready.
There we go. Well,
we'll see.
That's what I want to see. I hope so. I hope I see a bracket winner right there in Cheyenne Bubenheim. All right, number 2, kind of like with Berkeley Pear and Trevor Brooks in my doubles. With Jimmy McGuffin, it's not about stats. I just love watching the guy play. I saw him on the list, and I was like, I'm going to talk about Jimmy because, to me, when he gets the airmail going, and really not many people can do it, if any, can really get the airmail going like Jimmy McGuffin. When he gets that going, it's so fun to watch his competitors. Because what do you do? What do you do when a guy can just throw over you 90% of the time? What do you do with that?
Yeah, well, the thing about Jimmy, though, is he doesn't – that's not his go-to. But
I know.
His B shot is better than his A shot.
Right. No, I'm saying, but when he gets it going, it's just so fun to watch. And it's and I want to see how the senior division – you talked about Frank Modlin earlier. I think, obviously, Jimmy's going to be a very key player in how the senior division goes moving forward. For a few years there, it was Damon Dennis's division, period. Right? You had some breakthroughs with Bill Hadley, Jimmy you've had breakthroughs. I'm wanting to see, who, does it stay? Is it just Damon Dennis all the time in senior division? Does it stay that way? Or is Jimmy one of those players that can maybe, give Damon a run in the senior division to maybe knock him off that top perch?
I got kind of stuck with the seniors division quite a bit. It was a smaller of the brackets at these nationals. Yeah. And it just bad timing for other events. But, I like the way it's shaping up this year. Don't sleep on Tom Gorski or Steve Schrader.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of seniors now that I'm interested to watch this year. So, knowing my luck, I won't get to watch any seniors. I'll probably get stuck in a different bracket or something.
But no, like I said, I just love watching Jimmy play. Yeah. And he's a player that I don't want the game to get past.
Yeah, I agree.
But, all right, number 3, Ryan Smith. All right. I feel like Ryan Smith has become, I'm trying to think of the best analogy for this. Ryan Smith's still a hell of a player no matter what, but he's kind of become kind of a shootout wizard and a round limited, play. Like, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a NASCAR driver, and like whenever they would have short or road tracks,
Justin Burton Jr.
Right? Whenever they would have the road courses, there was like one or two names that would come up, and that they were kind of road specialists. And I feel like Ryan Smith is kind of
Chase, right?
Kind of turning into kind of a shootout wizard, and I want to see him get his game back to 21.
I like that. I like that pick, and I like that analysis of it. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and Ryan Wiedenfeld in doubles.
Yes, sir.
But I felt like I didn't give Ryan Smith enough credit last year in singles, and then just a strong showing in Rhode Island, winning that Open.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, he's back, but I don't know if he ever really went anywhere.
Right.
He's just always kind of under the radar, but still in the spotlight, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. Like, I feel like saying what I'm saying is me talking bad about his game, and I'm not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't many people in our sport that have been on television more than Ryan Smith.
Yeah, we'll have to do a list next time we get together of players that would have an action figure, because Ryan Smith is definitely one of them.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And it would probably be the best one, actually. Yeah. All right. Number 4, Mark Richards. Shocking, right? Like, why would you have Mark Richards was another guy that I would probably have on every list of mine this year until we get to the Nationals, because there's really no way you can duplicate what he did last year. Is there? Is there a way to do that?
If you wait the first 5 or 6 months and catch fire again, maybe. I mean, he's learning these new bags. He's trying to put a roll shot into his game. I feel like Alec Ryan is doing what we talked about. He's taking the first quarter of the season over.
Yes.
So, I see Mark Richards maybe not repeating a championship, but having a strong top 3 finish.
I mean, it's kind of crazy, because if you're Mark Richards in this season, you could have a top 5 year overall, and that would be a step down. And that's tough. I mean, that's what I mean. That's so difficult coming off the year that he had. So that's why I've had every tournament he's in, I just want to see how he plays and see if Mark seems like a pretty grounded guy to me. So I don't think it would really affect him one way or the other. It's probably me talking about it more than necessary, because he does seem like a very, very well-grounded guy, got his head on straight. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would affect him one way. He's also very competitive, though.
Oh, 100%.
And so you wonder if there is a step down, does that get in his head at all because he is so competitive? Or is he just like, hey, man, what I did in 2021, 2022 is next to impossible to duplicate. Let me just be who I am, right? I can't be that guy every year. But that's why I have him on my list. I want to see, how many bracket finals does he get into as we move through the Open season? Does he have win? What does he do? And is he able to kind of stay at that truly elite level? And then number 5, another player, when I saw his name on the list, this for me is a personal pick. I want to see Derek King back, and I know it's super hard considering how the talent pool is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But I want to see 2020 Derek King again. And I'm not saying he's playing bad now. I would love to see that Derek King again, because I loved watching him play. I really did. I loved when he was one of the dominant forces in the game. And I don't want to see that go away, is basically what I'm saying.
Well, again, no knock on Derek King. I don't think he's playing bad. I just think the field has gotten better around him. I mean, Derek King was the top tier. He did the DK way and got to where he was because he's one of the elite throwers in the game. But then people started figuring out what they need to do to beat him and get better than him, and it's working for all those players. So what adjustments does Derek need to make to get to the upper echelon again?
Yeah. I just really enjoyed watching him play, and that's why I've got him on my list. And so he's another one of my kind of, we're not supposed to have favorites. We're supposed to be impartial, but he's always been kind of one of my favorites.
Yeah. So honorable mentions in the chat. Grayson Waller wants us to notice Grayson Waller's.
There you go.
So we'll have to see if Grayson Waller made my list. We'll take a
Huh.
commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, ACL Nation, welcome back. This is the grand finale. This is what everyone tuned in for.
This is why they're here, Wally.
Everyone except for Grayson Waller. Sorry, buddy. Did not make my list, but I have a reason because I got to satisfy all the Caden Allen fans in the chat, man.
Wow.
Watching the chat, Bernie. But
yes. Well, I can't get all the comments up.
Are there? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gosh. Everyone is dogging us for not mentioning Caden Allen. Do you not know who Caden Allen is? Have you seen his accolades, his finish? Let's go.
Well, how about that?
Taking down the Kentucky Open. I'm looking forward to seeing what this man can do over and over again. Not just one time. He finished strong in West Virginia, started off strong here in Kentucky. Really looking forward to seeing if he can do it over and over and over again. I believe he was the number one ranked player before last Open. He still might be, not sure. But strong talent, and I believe he's sponsored now. So now that he's got a little bit of financial backing, and he'll start traveling a little bit more to get some tougher competition, I'm looking to see his skill set grow over and over again. He's got all the shots.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of, you have these great players from all over the country, and they are tremendous talents. But what really separates the elite of the elite is they're elite every week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, they're not perfect. You might get a bad match here, a bad match there, but for the most part, the cream rises, and you start seeing the same names late.
I think he is perfect so far.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I think he's won every tournament, but
this would be a heck of a tournament to win. Put it that way.
That's the thing. I want to throw the big shark in the big pond.
Yeah.
Let's see him eat.
I like it.
All right. So number 2 on my pick, Duncan Klemmer. You see there in the picture. That was when Duncan Klemmer went from who is Duncan Klemmer to I like this guy, Duncan Klemmer. The stovepipe heard around the world. I want to see what he can do. New sponsorship, partnering up with Noel Manza, 2 very calm, collected guys. Sorry, 1 calm, collected guy, and then Duncan Klemmer. But I want to see what type of damage this man can do switching over to Ultra, throwing with Noel Manza this year. But first things first, got to take care of some singles action here, Duncan. So good luck to you in that as well. And then this is my first time making my list. I got to put my boy Tyler Cobb on there, man.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, I want to see some Tyler Cobb action.
Got to get some Cobb action.
Let's see. One thing I did like about Tyler Cobb last year is whenever he was throwing the BGs, I can't remember who he paired up with in doubles. Was it man, it's on the tip of my tongue. from Texas, I think.
Which was it a blind draw or they actually
No,
played
no, no,
together?
no.
Oh, it was yeah. Oh my God.
Caleb Batson.
Caleb Batson. Good Lord, my brain was
Yeah.
about to melt there for
Dude,
a
I could
second.
picture both versions of Caleb Batson's haircut. That's why I got thrown off. The shaggy Caleb Batson and the light skinned faded up Caleb Batson.
Right.
I couldn't picture which one. But yeah, I liked seeing Tyler throw with the BGs, and I'm looking forward to seeing that partnership this year with Natural Bags back in his hand, making a deep run. He's another one of these players who said that they would throw with me in a tournament. So I'm getting my next season open list ready with some strong players. And I don't know. I mean, I like to see what Tyler Cobb can do. Big field.
Yeah.
Let's go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, I've already said it a million times already. Certain players I just like to watch. I love watching Tyler play. I love the fact it makes me feel good inside that I'm watching him play. The whole family's there.
Mm-hmm.
There's something great about that. There's just something nice and wholesome about a whole family sticks together. Even though, I mean, for the brothers, how crazy that is that you're competing against each other, right? That's got to be such a weird dynamic at times. But I love watching Tyler play.
Yeah, I would love to see a Cobb versus Cobb finale at some point, just to just to hear the chatter going on, because Tyler's actually kind of calm whenever he throws. He's a different version of Tyler when he's throwing. He will throw out the "gosh, I'm trash" comment every now and then.
Right.
But I like his composure on the courts, and I love interacting with the family off the courts. But
yeah,
when I think of Virginia Beach, I think of beach body. I think of swollen Adonis
oh yeah,
folk.
sure.
So I can't go on my first list without putting Jimmy Humans, the biggest arms in the game, on the list.
Absolutely. How could you miss that?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to get a picture of him on the left side instead of Duncan Clemmer, but it just wouldn't fit on the one screen.
It's too big.
So Jimmy Humans, another player who's switching bags, going to Reynolds this year. I loved what I saw out of him in Kentucky, or I'm sorry, Upland. And I'm really curious to see how all these different players that are switching bag companies, mesh. And I think that the Reynolds back in Jimmy's hands is going to be a strong case to put him on one of these lists every now and then.
I got you. I got a question for you. Who is the real Jimmy Humans? The Jimmy Humans that was essentially perfect in the Open Series last year, that just kind of, literally jumped into the forefront of the game, or is it the Jimmy Humans that was? I think he was 0-2 in Salt Lake City, right?
Yep,
I mean,
but that's a case again of peaking too soon. I think I felt like once he went perfect, he was kind of laissez-faire about the rest of the season, and I think it snuck up on him. I might be wrong, and I'm sure he's going to tell me I'm wrong, but I just didn't see the same. I don't know, the same
fire
at it. Yeah, the same fire. Just something seemed different. I knew he really, really wanted that perfect season, and then after that, I didn't really hear him talking too much about, man, I really, really want this shootout. I really, really want this national. So I'm hoping him and Kyle start throwing together once again, getting ready for these shootouts, getting ready for the big cashes with your actual partner. And then bottom of my list, my other guy, best decision he ever made was to drop me as a partner. Jeremy Frazier came on the scene last year at the Chicago first Open. Not sure exactly where Chicago or where it was, but either way, Jeremy Frazier, the only guy to defeat Matt Guy at that first Open that I went to, and he threw over an 11 to do so. He's teamed up with Dave Sutton this year, so pretty close in proximity to each other, always in communications, and this man is just throwing at every single tournament that I go to. So I don't know if Jeremy Frazier's on your radar at all as a player to watch this year, but I think he's got top 25 potential from what I'm seeing out of him. Yeah.
You know what I like about Jeremy Frazier, honestly, as a player, the few times I've had him on side courts, on the streaming courts, there are matches, and like you talked about his Matt Guy match, and he was the only one to beat him in that Open. He never seems phased.
No.
And look, we watch a lot of these players. We get to see a lot of these pros. And there are times that certain pros are phased and a little bit, I don't know if intimidated is the right word because our sport doesn't really lend itself to that, but maybe that when they get against certain players, they just don't feel like they can play at that level.
Yeah, he feeds off it. He looks for that stuff.
It seems to me that he really, really relishes those type of matchups.
Yeah,
and that's not easy.
If he wasn't such a good guy, he'd do well in prison because he would always try and find the biggest guy, the toughest guy there. He walks in the room. He wants that matchup. He's the type of guy who I'll see him look at these brackets, and there's a lot of players who come up to me and be like, "Man, I got Alex
exactly.
Rawls and Mark Richards in my bracket," and then there's other players where Jeremy's like, "Dude, if I get to this next round, you got to get me on the broadcast. I got Matt Guy next, or I got Mark Richards next. Get me on the broadcast." He wants it.
Yeah.
And for me, that goes a long way, man.
Absolutely.
Especially I'm making my top 5, Grayson Waller. So take notes, buddy.
Hey, man, by the way, you did it.
I did it, man. No worry about going short.
No, sir.
Over. But hey, man, it was fun, dude.
It is fun.
All right. So chat next time. Just know that everything that I say is 100% correct. No need to even mention who I forgot or who we missed out on or how wrong we were, because this is flawless list that I put out. Bernie's might be a little off though.
Yeah, mine's always a little off. Yeah.
Right,
make sure you're checking out the Open on all the ACL broadcast possibilities there.
Yeah. We'll be live Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Make sure you guys interact in the chat. Give me the old thumbs up. Let me know that you guys are there. In the meantime, Bernie, man, you enjoy yourself.
Yes, sir.
I'll see you in Myrtle Beach, brother.
All right, bro. Can't wait.
All right, ACL.